Recording in progress.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to call the meeting to order for February 21st, 2024. Madam Clerk, can you call the roll?
Chair Duncan,
Here.
Vice Chair Nunley,
Here.
Commissioner Manford,
Here.
Commissioner Griffin, Commissioner Morgan,
Here.
Commissioner Osmany, present, Commissioner Ramos,
Here.
Commissioner Ross,
Here.
Commissioner Sajabu,
Here.
Commissioner Starks, and Commissioner Wu.
Here. Present.
We have a quorum?
Yes, we do.
Wonderful. Madam Clerk, are there any changes to the agenda today?
No, there are no changes.
So we'll now move to the public comment section of the agenda. Madam Clerk, would you read the public comment script?
Persons wishing to address the commission on subjects not on the agenda but within the jurisdiction of the commission may do so at this time. The commission cannot discuss or take action on matters not on the agenda for this meeting. To speak on an agenda item, please fill out a speaker card and give it to the clerk. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes per item.
Thank you. And do we have any speakers today?
We do not.
Okay. So we'll now move on to the consent items on the agenda. Would you mind reading the consent item wording?
Of course. All matters listed on consent are to be approved by one motion unless a commissioner or the public requests that separate action is taken on a specific item.
All right, commissioners, can I request a motion to approve the consent items? All right, so it's moved by Commissioner Wu, seconded by Vice Chair. Are there any objections? Okay. Seeing none, we will have a motion. Excuse me. Yeah. If there are no objections, we'll pass a motion to approve the consent items. All right. Hearing no objections, the motion passes unanimously. And that brings us to the discussion items. Would you read item number 2?
A Tax Equity and Fiscal Responsibility Act, TEFRA, hearing and approval of the Housing Authority of the City of Sacramento, issuance of tax-exempt bonds, obligations for the Donner Field Senior Apartments in the amount of up to $30 million.
And we have a presentation from staff.
Good afternoon, Chair and Commissioners. Roman Singh, Housing Finance Analyst with the Development Finance. Staff is requesting approval of bond issuance for the Donner Field Senior Project. In 1987, SHRA took ownership of the 1-acre property located at 4501 9th Avenue. In August of 2020, SHRA issued a request for proposal seeking a developer to construct and manage a new affordable housing. Eden Housing was selected to build senior apartments. In June of last year, SHRA executed a conditional loan commitment in the amount of $10,085,000, which consisted of $7 million in SHRA federal funds, $2.6 million in Mental Health Services Act funds, and $1.25 million in city general funds, plus a seller carryback loan for the SHRA loan. Additionally, last fall, their application for 9% tax credits was unsuccessful. The project has now transitioned to utilizing bonds and tax credits. The Donner Field project is a new construction project servicing senior individuals aged 55 and older at or below 50% area median income. The property primarily comprises of 1-bedroom units totaling 67 units altogether. 17 of the units will be reserved with project-based voucher MHSA clients. The project will feature various amenities such as a computer room, multi-purpose room with shared kitchen, barbecue area, volleyball court, and a community garden. Eden Housing is both the developer and property manager. Furthermore, it is important to note that prevailing wages will be applied to the construction of this project. 15 hours of on-site resident services will be offered by Eden Housing Resident Services Incorporated. Classes will include, but not limited to, nutrition, ESL classes, bingo, gardening, and counseling. Sacramento County Department of Health Services will provide one full-time case manager who will be responsible for supportive services for the 17 MHSA residents. In closing, staff is requesting approval of the issuance of a bond up to $30 million for the funding of the Donner Field Senior Project, and staff is available for any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Are there any questions from commissioners?
I do.
Commissioner Ross?
Yeah.
All right, go ahead. Oh, sorry.
No problem. I think my question is in regards to increasing the number of units for the extremely low, which is 30% AMI. Is there any possibility to increase that number instead of it being 3?
Sorry, can you repeat the question in terms of the 30% or something?
So as of right now, if you look at the form that we were given, it says the units, right? It says extremely low income, 30% AMI. Currently, they're only allocated 3 units for that AMI. Is there a possibility or is there a room for that number to be increased?
Maybe I can help.
1 second.
Commissioner, actually, there are actually 20 units that will be 30% AMI or less. You can find that on your attachment 7. 3 of them do not have project-based vouchers attached to them. The other 17 do. And of course, the project-based voucher residents are much more likely to be much lower than 30% your immediate income. But the units were restricted to 30%. So about a third, the units are 30% and the rest up 50% EMI.
Okay. Okay, thank you for clarifying that because you guys broke it down from 2 different categories. All right, that's my question. Thank you.
Commissioner Ramos?
Yeah, just a question or two. I see that the residential building, it says 2- and 3-story residential building, and this is for seniors. Is there gonna be like an elevator or any other considerations for seniors who may be disabled in terms of accessing the units that are on the 2nd or potentially 3rd story?
Yeah, that's a great question. Currently, I don't have all the floor plans on me, but I can get you information.
I was 90% sure, but I just
Yeah.
confirmed, yes, there'll be elevators in the building.
Thank you.
And then I'm curious, so it sounds like this bond financing, whatever, it's because they didn't get the 9% tax credits. Do we know why they didn't get the 9% approved? Is that like a competitive thing?
Yeah, so the 9% tax credits are comparatively more competitive than the 4% with the tax exempt bonds, and that's primarily the reason. So it's just a very competitive structure with the 9% tax credits.
Commissioner Ross?
Yeah, so thank you. This has to do with paying back the bond, right? So who's gonna be responsible for paying that?
Paying back the bond necessarily? Well, since the developer is applying for the 4% and tax exempt bonds, it's on their responsibility in terms of the financing structure to pay back any debts.
Okay, so they have reasonable surety because the next one that we'll be approving later on, the interest, whoever had it wasn't able to pay on it. So I was just curious to see if there's a strong surety that they'll be able to pay back the issuance of the bond.
Yeah, there is a cash flow or show the projections of the income and expenditures on your attachment 8, but yes, definitely we have looked at all these things. I mean, our loan repayments for SHRA funds don't usually start till about year 16, but this project will have enough cash to repay their debt.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments? Madam Clerk, are there any public comments on this item?
There are not.
Okay. Excuse me, Commissioner Morgan?
Move staff recommendation.
I didn't even get a chance to ask. Item moved by Commissioner Morgan, seconded by Commissioner Wu. So if there's no objection, we'll move to pass the motion. Hearing no objections, the motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, can you read item number 3?
Approving forgiveness of accrued interest on the terraces at Capitol Park, 1609 O Street loan.
And there's a presentation from staff.
Good afternoon, Chair and Commissioners. Whitney Hinton, Program Manager in Development Finance and Portfolio Management. Staff is requesting approval to forgive up to $1.4 million of loan interest for terraces at Capitol Park. In 1992, City Council approved a loan from redevelopment funds for $1,351,071 at 3% interest to the 16th and O Street Limited Partnership for the construction of 60 total units, of which 59 were set aside at 40% of area median income for seniors ages 55 and older. Over the last several years, the project has encountered financial challenges as rents have not kept up with the operating costs and the increased rehabilitation needs. The outstanding loan was due and payable in June of 2023, and the developer defaulted on the agency's loan. The project was sold to Capital Area Development Authority, or CADA, in December of 2023, and with the CADA assuming the existing agency loan, including all payment obligations related to any and all outstanding principal and interest, there is no other debt on the property. In order for acquisition of this property to be financially feasible and viable for ongoing operations and maintenance of the property, CADA is requesting that SHRA forgive the accrued interest of approximately $1.4 million. The appraised value of the project was $2.1 million in January of 2022. The value of the property is lower than the amount owed on the agency loan. The project's value may be further diminished by necessary rehabilitation improvements that will be required in the upcoming 10-year period, including a new roof, exterior paint, heating, cooling systems, tree maintenance, and other capital improvements totaling approximately $850,000. CADA will be responsible for establishing a new replacement reserve out of net cash flow. The projected cash flow will only cover the estimated cost improvements that will be required over the planned 10-year replacement period and will not cover any project debt. All project cash flow will go into capital item replacement, maintenance, and repairs for the property. In closing, the outstanding principal balance of this loan is $1,351,071 with approximately $1.4 million in accrued interest, and staff is requested to forgive the accrued interest after the principal is repaid by CADA, and staff is available to answer any questions you may have.
Yeah. Are there any questions or comments from commissioners?
Okay.
Commissioner Ross?
Yeah, so I didn't get a chance to understand Capital Area Development Authority. Is that a state
Yes,
agency?
it's a state agency. We have a
Okay.
representative here today.
They're actually a joint powers entity, much like SHRA, but their powers are the city of Sacramento and the state of California.
Okay, that was good. That's important because I was wondering who we're forgiving.
It's another government entity, which is
Okay,
why we're considering this, and we might not consider it for others.
okay. Thank you.
And just, my only question is that I know that CADA had leased the land to the developer, and I know that the developer defaulted on paying us, but they defaulted on paying them.
And paying CADA for the lease land?
Yes.
No.
No, CADA still,
Was getting paid.
yes.
But
And
we
they're
weren't.
now the assumed
They're now the
owners.
owners.
Yes, correct.
Okay. Okay, that's it.
The lease payments were made for the land.
Okay, it's just, that's it, sorry. I mean,
Can we hear what you think?
it's just, my only thought is that we did give them a loan, and I know we want to forgive, and I believe the interest that we're trying to forgive is 1.4 million, right? And they've only paid us $800 and something thousand, and yet CADA purchased it for the same amount as far as how much they've only paid us. Am I correct?
CADA assumed our loan in its entirety.
Okay.
And they will be paying off the principal of the loan, so we will get our loan payment back. We're just asking approval to forgive the interest on the loan. So all the interest that has accrued.
And the other question that I wanted to ask, in regards to the interest, that 1.4 million, was there a plan as far as what SHRA was gonna do with that fund? I just wanna know that, because if there was a plan for that fund, that means we're taking money from other projects that's probably supposed to come down the pipeline. But, so I just wanna understand that part.
I would say that all repayments, SHRA has a large loan portfolio, and we receive repayments on those every year. Those repayments are put back into the agency budget, and then we bring those projects forward to you. So we are getting the principal back, as Whitney said, so we will get the $1.35 million. And that will go back into other projects that we'll be bringing before you for gap financing. But you are correct, by forgiving the interest, that additional 1.4 million will not go back to other projects. That said, in this project's case, the state it's in, and the amount it's valued at now, without us forgiving this interest, we could have a even more significant issue with the project in the future that might need more gap financing for us beyond forgiveness of the $1.4 million at this time. We might be creating a bigger issue.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But you are correct. We are forgiving this interest, and therefore we cannot put it into another affordable housing development project.
That's well, okay.
And I think the other thing that I want to add is that, because they are a government entity and their mission is similar to SHRA, we feel as if that this will really benefit the residents there, because those units do need to be rehabbed. And as long as, they owe us this money, which they just don't have the resources to repay, that we're kind of standing in between the rehab that's necessary for the seniors who are living there. So that was another very compelling reason of why we took this rare exception to forgive the interest, as long as we were getting our principal back. Commissioner Ross?
Yes, are there any other folks in the market out there that want to take over this project and that will pay the interest? Was there ever any attempts to see if there's someone else that wants to purchase the property?
There have been over the last several attempts for the owner to have someone else take over ownership, and then at the end of all those negotiations, CADA is who decided to take over and negotiate and take ownership of the property.
Okay, so there were no other takers. Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Ramos?
Well, they've kind of asked some of the questions I wanted to ask more substantively, but I'll ask kind of a last random question. I was looking at the staff report that I guess will go to the city council on sustainability, and it's talking about consistency with the general plan. And it talks about that this project will advance energy independence by reducing use of fossil fuels and long-term affordable and reliable energy. And I guess I just didn't understand how forgiving interest on a loan has to do with energy independence. So I'm curious what the reasoning on that, or is there some way that this affects energy use or costs that I'm not seeing?
I believe our stance overall with the rehabilitation is going to be able to take place with the project, what they'll be able to do moving forward. By us forgiving this interest, they'll be able to rehabilitate the project and be able to put in improvements to the project that will help the long-term general plan goal.
So the rehab of the building will deal with like energy efficiency?
Right.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense. Thank you.
Vice Chair Nunley?
Thank you. Thank you for the report. So I just wanted to go back through and if I understood everything. So the outstanding loan is 1.3, the interest is 1.4 roughly. So 2.7, a little north of 2.7 is what's outstanding. And then the appraised value was only 2.1, and that was back in January of 22. That's where you guys are saying it's underwater already.
Exactly.
And it still needs $850,000 worth of work. This is significantly upside down, which is why I would assume you didn't have any takers, because we wouldn't want to go underwater. The other question that I did have, and I apologize, I didn't send an email. I kept saying send an email, and I forgot. So I apologize, is there a cash flow available of what they think the cash flow will be for the coming years on this project at all? I don't know that I saw one, but maybe I missed it.
There was not one attached to the staff report, but we definitely can get one for you.
Okay, I really appreciate that. And then if I understand it correctly, I was reading in 1992, CADA leased the land to the developer for 55 years. And I take it since from then until I think 2023, that was 31 years of them paying the lease, which if I have this correct was about 1.6 million. So, but that's over 31 years. It's not like they got the 1.6 all in one shot, but over 31 years, I think that was about what it is.
I believe it's about $50,000 a year.
Yeah, 53,268 is what it said. So I just took that, multiplied it by the 31, and that's where I came up with that 1.6. And when you said that they ran into trouble, was there more information about exactly what they ran into trouble on? Was it just, I think you mentioned something about the rents
Didn't keep up with the market.
didn't keep up with the market, so obviously this was low income. So I imagine there was maybe modest increases in rent is what it was?
Correct, the owners weren't able to increase the rents at a higher rate or maximize the rent at the time each year. And the rent stayed pretty much the same, so they weren't able to capitalize and receive any additional funds.
Okay, and that's how they started getting into trouble. Okay, well, thank you so much, I really appreciate it.
Commissioner Morgan?
So the CADA is made up of the state and the city? Are either of those two entities in a position to do anything for us in the future? We're getting this. Can we ask for some grants somewhere and anyway. I was gonna keep that door open, see if they might answer.
Any other questions or comments? Are there any public comments on this item?
There are not.
Yeah,
Yes. Commissioner Starks?
let's talk just for a quick second about any possible public relation blowback. Have you guys already spun that around? And I'm just asking the question out loud. It's fine, it's beautiful, everybody's happy, but I just want to know if staff has thrown that into the consideration in case somebody tries to make a case about, you know, judgment, misuse, anything, you know. I've heard everything. I've sat and listened to every question, and all these commissioners have made very salient questions about things that people would ask. And you guys have answered them very straightforward, no negatives, but is that something that I want to go forward with it, but I just, it's more of a kind of a future thing about consideration in case the explanation, public relations kind of stuff, we've thought about it.
Well, I think if you look at it, this is such a unique case. Yeah. And we're looking back, you know, in the early 90s, 1992. And so affordable housing was financed differently. There is no other debt on this project, which, you know, I think the one that we just did before that, there's like all these different layers of financing and funding is much, much more complicated. And so I think if you take that into consideration, you look at the fact that at the end of the day, they were really working very hard to make sure that the seniors who were living there were not getting escalating rents that would have forced them out of their units. And so, you know, if you really just kind of continue to focus on, you know, that they really were working in the best interest of the residents there. And, you know, and I believe there's a regulatory agreement that was on it as well. So they could have pursued different type of financing over those years, but, you know, things have changed a lot since 1992 in terms of how we finance and how we put these projects together. So this is really one of those odd situations, and it happens. I mean, it absolutely happens. So, not often, but it's usually ones that were financed many, many years ago.
And this is Brad McConnell, General Counsel. I just wanted to add one thing from the legal side of it, is that we have to remember that the alternative would be the agency foreclosing on the property, in which not only the interest but the debt would essentially be forgiven, and then we would own the property and then need to try to find a buyer like CADA that would be willing to come in, buy it at a price that may be even less than the loan amount that they're assuming, and then still be willing to put in the necessary capital expenditures in order to improve the property. So with all that, with those two things in mind, you know, Christine and her team, with Lachelle's guidance, decided that this was the best scenario.
Commissioner Monfort?
Last question and comment. I know that they had a 55-year lease with the previous developer. I think, was there an expectation that, you know, the rent would change, or typically when we approve some of these things, like a 30-year agreement. So I want to make sure that this is to perpetuity for those who are actually there, if we do agree on this. Meaning that not 30 years from now, they're going to change the rent, or maybe have some people who leave and so forth.
This is similar in some ways to carry on what Commissioner Nunley asked. So only 30 years of the 55-year regulatory agreement with the state of California has elapsed. So we know the remainder of that 55 years is still, what is that? I'm sorry, 24 more years. Mm-hmm. So that's still in place. I also believe CADA, we've been talking about the immediate needs. I think their long-term goal would be to maybe issue more bonds and tax credits to do a full-blown rehab of this property at some point. And so that would kick in yet another 55-year regulatory agreement. So I have no doubt, and CADA's in the business of affordable housing, just as we are, so I'm sure they'll keep it affordable.
I just want to ensure that there's sustainability for those who are actually there and coming, not just there, but those who may be coming in also in the future. There's sustainability for them. That's it. Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? Okay. Can I get a motion to approve the reports?
Second.
Yeah, I got the public comment part before
Okay.
the additional commissioner comments. Right? Okay. Okay, so it was moved by Vice Chair Nunley and seconded by?
I think it was me.
You? Okay. Commissioner Manford. So if there's no objection, we will move to pass the motion. No objections, the motion passes unanimously. We'll now move on to the presentation section of the agenda. Madam Clerk, can you read item number 4?
A presentation honoring Emmanuel Manford's service as chair.
I can get started. I really want to take this as an opportunity to acknowledge the previous chair, Emmanuel Manford, and all of his great work in 2023. It takes a lot sometimes to step into the chair role. That's why we kind of do that vice chair. Then it slides you right on in his chair. Stephanie's like, yeah, I know, that's how I ended up. But yes, so we really do appreciate your hard work and everything that you've done for the commission. You've come forward with very insightful comments and been always very supportive of the agency in the room and outside of the room, and we really do appreciate that in your role. You've also participated, showed up at council have talked to the governing bodies about SHRA and the work that you do here at the commission, and just really represented the commission very well. So with that, I really want to just say a great big thank you. We do have a plaque here for you that has like a gavel there. Kids will not be running around the house. They will, like, this is a nice little thing to work with. But anyway, again, congratulations on your work as chair. Really appreciate everything that you've done. And that, I'll just kind of open it up to see if there are comments from other members of the commission.
Would you like to make a comment before? Well, I just want to thank you for, being a wonderful chair when I was vice chair. But, also just echoing what Lachelle said, your thoughtful comments, your clear care for residents, and for the intricate details of each project that sometimes I don't think of, you would pull out. So I really appreciate that.
So I need to pick on him for sure, because when he took over as chair, he said he was going to do shorter meetings than I did. Congratulations.
Great efficiency, yes, we did a good job. So all the chairs are following in the skill level of Commissioner Morgan, and then Commissioner Manfor, former president, chair, and then current chair. You guys are doing a great job, so thank you.
And all I have to say is, honestly, I appreciate it. Thank you. It's an honor to be recognized for something like this. Being a chair, I mean, it's almost like facilitating different personalities and listening to people and knowing when to jump in and looking at the time to make sure we get out of time. But I wouldn't have been able to do any of this without the support and the hard work for the other commissioners. So quite honestly, thank you all for making this a great experience for me. So yes, thank you all. So my clap is for everyone else besides this week. So, and that's it. Thank you, Michelle. And the staff, you guys are wonderful. You guys do great work, and I say from the top of the mountains all the time, SHRA are doing that thing. I've argued with people so many times. You have no idea, I've argued with people about the good work that you guys have been doing, so keep it up.
All right, we have the executive director's report.
Just a quick announcement, but our next meeting date is going to be held on March 6th. So make sure that's on your calendars. March 6th, 2024 will be our next commission meeting, and that was it. I didn't have anything else. We do have some grand openings that are coming up, but we're still working on some of the dates, and we will let you know when that occurs.
I don't have any announcements, but do any of the commissioners have anything to announce?
So for the March 6th meeting, so I don't formally do it, but we were talking about whether there was going to be a meeting or not. Since there is one, I will be out of town, and so for the record, I'll give you notification for that, and if you can send me whatever correspondence is needed, I will do my best to be present in the hotel room that I'm at. Thank you.
Any other announcements? Okay. There is no other business, so we will adjourn this meeting.